want to talk about increasing your V taper by improving the way that you train your medial delts. So now the shoulders themselves work synergistically between the heads, but you can optimize certain heads by using certain techniques, which I will go through in this video. So there's 6 main points that I want to touch on within this video. First one is exercise technique throughout each set. So just making sure each rep looks the same as the first rep looks the same as the last rep. When form starts to go down, you end the set there. This is a good way to ensure that you're adhering to progressive overload and not just forcing reps out in order to hit overload. Second thing is constant tension throughout the active range of motion. I'll go into all of these in more detail. These I'm just kind of heading the ones that I've got. And then utilising angles and working the strength curve. Varying implements between dumbbells, kettlebells, cables, barbells, machines. Getting some form of progressive overload in over time, and also periodising your frequency. So I have everything going on in the background, so enjoy the video. So when performing a lateral raise, for me there's 3 cues that you want to be focusing on. First is the front deltoid does do quite a bit in your standard lateral raise. It helps out quite a bit, but if you lean your torso forwards 10 degrees or so, it will take out a lot of the involvement of the front delt. So I always like to start by bracing my core, leaning forward ever so slightly, and you will feel the difference. You'll really feel it in the side delt. So that would be my first tip. Second tip is you'll find that there is no tension on the side delt when you start from the beginning. Start from right by your side. So what I do is hold the dumbbells out until I find that biting point where there's tension, and then I start each rep from there and finish each rep there as well. That way I'm able to keep constant tension on the muscle. And then thirdly, instead of lifting up, I focus on lifting out, and this reduces trap recruitment as well. Now that I've established the technique that I want to use for the set, it's really important that I make sure that each rep is the same. So I've touched on the second part, which was keeping constant tension for the active range of motion. So I'll go through to number 3, which was utilising angles and working the strength curve. So with each movement, you've essentially got a stretched position, the mid-range position, which is what you would normally do, and then a contracted element of the position as well. So with the lateral raise, what you find is the stretched position, you don't really have any tension, which is what I was talking about with the active range of motion. So the dumbbell lateral raise or kettlebell lateral raise isn't going to cut it for that. So you can still use those implements, but what you'd want to be doing is kind of leaning into something in order to give you that position where immediately gravity is causing tension as soon as you start to lift the dumbbell. So I have got an exercise on here which will show that a little bit later in the video. But another way that you can do this as well, if you have access to cable equipment, you'll find that throughout the entire range of motion, when you're doing it with cables, you'll find the tension is there, and then the contracted position as well. You can upgrade the tension you get with that. Again, with cables, if you turn and face the cable equipment, you'll find that the first portion of the movement has very little tension, but the higher you lift it towards 90 degrees, the more tension you get. So that's quite a good way to put added tension on. And also you can lean away from like a pole or something if you've got something in the gym that's like that, and then that will put more tension at the top of the movement as well. Another thing that you can do as well is playing around with the lever length. So essentially you can have almost like a mechanical drop set where you would do a normal dumbbell lateral raise. When you can't do any more with good form, if you bend 90 degrees at the elbow, and you start performing bent arm lateral raises. The lever length is less now because you've halved your arm, so it's half as far away as it was before. You'll be able to get out a few more good reps as well, which can help give you a bit more overload. So point number 4 was varying your implements that you use. So by that I meant dumbbells, kettlebells, cables, barbells, machines. It's important to use different equipment. 1, just to keep it interesting, but 2 as well, just to make things a little bit different. I personally love using kettlebells because, again, the lever length's a little bit further away, so you're holding the handle where not very much of the weight is, and then the majority of the weight is at the bottom of the kettlebell, which is going to put it further away from your centre of mass, which makes it harder. So that's one of my favourites to use. But yeah, using any of them, switching it up. The 5th point I wanted to touch upon was progressive overload. Now, in an exercise or in a muscle group as small as the medial delts, it's important to recognise that going up in weight isn't something you're going to be doing very often, and it should be the least of your worries. You should be focusing more on getting an extra rep or 2 week by week, or increasing by a set every few weeks, or just decreasing the time that you take between sets, so just keeping your rest between sets a little bit lower. And then just, you can play around with the rep tempo as well, so slowing down the eccentric to make it harder. So they're all different things that you can use to increase your total volume, and yeah, that's going to help. The 6th and final point was periodising your frequency. With them being a small muscle group, they can get worked a lot more frequently than a big muscle group, such as your legs or your back, for instance. The good thing about this, it gives you plenty of options on how you want to set up your program. So you could do them twice a week, just with your push sessions, and then maybe a week later you might want to push it a bit more and do it 4 times a week. So you do it with your 2 push sessions and a few sets on your pull sessions as well. So by playing around with that, the more sessions that you do, essentially you're going to be spiking your muscle protein synthesis more, which is going to help keep you growing a bit more, but also that's going to increase fatigue. So by divvying between 2 and 4, you give yourself a chance to recover with the 2, and then you can sort of overtrain essentially on the 4 days, so you give yourself a bit of growth and a bit of recovery. So I looked into a couple of research studies. First one was comparing standing barbell press versus standing dumbbell press for which one has the most medial delt recruitment. The conclusion was standing dumbbell presses were better. I believe this to be for the fact that they go straight up and down everybody's centre of mass, whereas the barbell press, the weight has to go out forward first, which can put more emphasis on the anterior delt. So consider doing a couple training blocks with just dumbbell presses to try and improve medial delt recruitment. Second study was grip width on upright rows. It was concluded that 2 times the width of your shoulders was best for recruiting the medial delts. So consider using a wider grip or using dumbbells and kettlebells to make it a little bit easier to do. Thank you for watching the video. Hopefully there's a couple tips there for you to take away and implement on your next session. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you on the next video.